All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Assassination Classroom, Season 2, Episode 11. Last episode was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was
all
a crazy festival.
Cameos and food and whatnot, and assassinating the ecosystem, but not completely. Because balance, as all things should be.
Indeed.
And Nagisa got a surprise visit from his mom. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that woman.
Yeah, that woman, yes. But after all the crazy hijinks and you return pistol ramen sucking, what do we even do for this episode?
Well, they in some ways insulted the class A.
That's true. Yes,
basically
threw down the gauntlet.
They made light of them by saying like, "Oh, we could have won."
Yeah.
But we ran out of stuff and decided to. Well, we'll call it short.
Yeah. You know? We barely even did anything on the second day. You know. It's
exactly.
Just,
so, Asano, how you feel about that? How you feel about that? Yeah.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this.
相手は飲食店だ。悪い噂を広めるのは簡単だし、食中毒なら命取りにできる。
Oh wow.
君は害する努力を怠ったんだ。
Wow.
マジか。害って E 組の飯に毒を入れろと。
Rise up against the principal.
あな
たの教育は矛盾している。
Asano!
知らないが、E 組はこの1年で飛躍的に力を伸ばした。僕ら選ばれた A 組と張り合うまでに。
Asano!
Yeah.
奴らが刺激になっていることは否定できない。強敵やテスト。いや。
Wait, the music! Wait! He was gonna say minions! And the music stopped!
I love it! Wow.
Respectful competition?
3分ほど席を外してくれないか。友達の4人と話がしたい。
Oh shoot!
No, he remembers what happened when he... No, he beat the shit out of the American students when they were alone with him.
Oh, the shadows.
Okay.
君の言う縁なんて二言三言ささやくだけで崩壊する。私が教える強さとはそんな脆いものではない。
Oh my god!
私が全て取り仕切る。強くなければ何の意味も価値もない。それを教えてあげよう。
Alright, Asano, join Class A.
Yeah,
It's time now.
Yep. Seize the means of education.
Beautiful!
物心ついた時から僕の家は教室だった。
Ooh.
僕が生徒。
Okay.
Yes.
I like this.
僕たちの間に会話はない。
Wow.
Backstory for Asano.
Oh god.
先生は1学期の
What's the 50?
クラス全員50位以内という目標を課しました。
Gotcha. Okay.
あの時のことを謝ります。先生が成果を焦りすぎたし、敵のしたたかさも計算外でした。ですが、今は違う。君たちは頭脳も精神も成長した。どんな戦略やトラブルにも負けず、目標を達成できるはずです。堂々と全員50位以内に入り、堂々と本校舎復帰の資格を獲得した上で、
And then that will be the end of the E class.
Wow, yeah.
The principal?
全ての授業を教えます。
Wow.
A 組のみんな。
Okay.
そうです。とうとう。
I'll do it myself.
洗脳教育は受けたくないよ。
橋爪君、田中君、藤井さん、近藤さん、奥野さん。理解が遅れているようだね。
He can just tell.
なんで後ろ向きでわかるのよ。
そうは言っても早すぎて、英傑レベルならまだしも、僕らには無理です。
無理だと思う。
Yes.
戦う意義を理解していないからだ。3分間だけ廊下で話そうか。
Oh my
ちょ
god.
っとした雑談をね。
Oh my god. Okay. You know, the commentary here.
God, the organ, like just...
Yep. All of humanity.
君は帰って自習でいい。
理事長とコロ先生ってさ、なんかちょっと似てるよ
And
ね。
then Asano will be leaving right here. And we get to interact with them
Yeah.
alone.
Uh-huh.
普通に先生やってるとこ。
こんなことは言いたく
Yes, yes.
All right.
君たちに
Ask for help. Carla's just like,
あの怪物を君たちに殺してほしい。
oh my god.
Oh, okay.
物
Okay.
理的に殺してほしいわけじゃない。殺してほしいのはあいつの教育方針だ。
Wow.
方針ってどうやって？
Yeah.
簡単な話だ。次の期末で君たち E 組に上位を独占してほしい。無論1位は僕になるが、優秀な生徒が優秀な成績でも意味がない。君
Right.
たちのようなゴミくずが A 組を上回ってこそ
Detritus.
理事長の教育がぶち壊せる。今の A 組は
Oh God.
地獄だ。
God, that imagery is
Yeah.
so good.
要はここまで。
Even though we know it's not like literally happening.
忘れない。
Damn.
もしあれで勝ったなら、彼らはこの先その方法しか
Sure.
信じなくなる。
And I can't sustain that.
下げすぎ
Yep.
陥れることで手にする強さは
Yep.
限界がある。君たち程度の敵
And
にしか
he,
手こず
Yeah, he's
maybe,
learned that.
just maybe, doesn't
彼らは
want
高校
that.
に進んでからも僕の手駒だ。偏った強さの手駒では支配者を支えることはできない。
Wow.
時として敗北は人の目を覚まさせる。
Okay.
だからどうか正しい敗北を僕の仲間と父親に。
Awesome. And he does the bow. Wow.
Good job, Asano.
他人に失敗してる場合1位取るの君じゃなくて俺なんだけど言ったじゃん
Oh man.
全員容赦しない1位は
Wow.
その下も E 組浅野くんは10番あたりがいいとこだね
おうおうカルナがついに1位
Oh boy.
が決まったはごめんだけどね
All right.
俺にも負けんじゃねえのか
余計なこと考えてないでさ殺す気できなよそれが一番楽しい
All right. All right.
面白い。ならば僕も本気でやらせてもらう。
コロ先生、教師をするのはこの学校が初めてですね。
なぜわかります？
なんとなく素人臭いので、なぜ教師になったのか、固くな
Ah.
私が勝ったら教えてくれませんかね。
そもそも人に何かを教えたいと欲するとき、
Oh.
理由は2つしかありません。自分の成功を伝えたいときか、自分の失敗を伝えたいとき。
I like it.
Yeah.
I
あ
like
な
it.
たはどちらですか？浅野理事長。
さあ、
I'm guessing it's his failures.
I'm guessing he's never thought about it.
Oh, sure.
サシモのコロ先生も忙しすぎて分身の形が大きく乱れる。
Wow. Wow.
It had the stages of evolution.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
今紙の上で殺し合う。
Yes.
All right.
Back to the Colosseum.
で無様な結果を出しては
English. And it's got even bigger than last time.
僕らは胸を張れない。ターゲットに報告できないままじゃ。
This is a monster straight out of One Punch Man, dude.
Yeah.
今回のテスト半端じゃない。
What if just everyone fails?
I wouldn't be too.
今までと比較にならない。
All right.
Yeah,
All
it will
right.
be.
ただただ狂ったように集中してる。ゾウってあんなに強いパワーになるんだな。
っていうか、やばいやばい。
Ah. The designs for these like behemoths, so cool.
Proper kaiju battle.
Yeah.
話は聞いてるだろ。
Oh.
50位以内が目標だとか。
Yes.
あ、偽律さん
Right, right.
本物の律さんはこう分析してたんだす。その目標を達成するには私のような成績改善が頑張れると思っていると。
That's some renewed resolve for you there.
問題の異常な多さと難しさ問題用紙を見た瞬間にペース配分を決めないと
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
箇所を迷っていたらあっという間に追い詰められる
All right.
Is that just
Evangelion,
yeah? It's
like-
just straight up Ava. All right, Terasaka.
Terasaka's doing really good in math.
膨大な選択肢を片っ端から倍分けして潰してやがる
Oh,
Okay.
組み合わせの公式使って
that's amazing.
これとこれとこのケースでは
Oh,
今言った戦法を使いなさい
Awesome.
Terasaka's math notes. Yeah.
Because you do kind of want it to just be execution when you get into the test. You know, you don't really want to have to think about it.
バカだからってバカにしやがって見習わないとなあの格好悪さ
That's practically inspiring. Like,
Yeah.
かっこつけてないで泥臭くいかなくちゃ
たとえ正解に届かなくても
So when are they going to bring in the giant sniper from, you know,
分だけ部分
super far away?
right, right.
取れるよっしゃ多分これやったんじゃね
Wow.
してる暇ねえぞ
Move on.
Yeah. Advance.
It's an angel.
The bonus question.
おいおい
The multi-part question.
全化式なんて来るのかよ
Recurrence relations.
だけの存在だと思ってた中学のテストで出てくるなんて
Yeah, what is that?
I don't even know what that is.
They have the question.
Yeah. All right, Karma, come on. You're always good at math.
特殊会に持ってくんだよ先週やり方教えたじゃん
今回は授業の他にも生徒同士で得意な科目を教えさせました
Oh,
That's
cool.
genius.
教える側
Nice.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
チームワークが
It helps you understand it more
Yep.
as well.
Mhm.
には効果てきめん
I can imagine it would, yeah.
より完璧に仕上がりましたどちらが上回るのかは私
Oh
に
no.
はありません
No, portal to
No,
another dimension.
you're kidding.
It's the third impact all over again. No.
みんなは焦らず解いてなよ三角くらいは取れるはずだよみんなの丸は俺がちゃんと取ってくるから
Oh.
The Rubik's Cube Angel.
さてどうやって仕留めようかな
And then that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right.
God, the amount of time spent on just the animation
Yep.
for
Uh-huh.
dramatic battle performance. in
I
the
mean, hey, it's
Coliseum.
that or I'll take this potato chip and eat it.
I mean, I have nothing against both.
Yeah,
really.
you
like-
know, like, just like Koro Sensei said, even I don't know which method is better.
All right,
Okay.
we are going into finals, y'all,
Yep.
and
battle.
we've got the principal actually taking things into the scariest territory,
Direct supervision.
assuming direct control.
Yep. Like it's one of those things where whenever they get into the visualization of the principal's influence, on the one hand, there's the part of me that wants to there's the small part of me that wants to like laugh at how over the top it is,
Of
you
course,
know?
yeah.
Because Assassination Classroom is a very over the top show.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm impressed at how well it makes me actually viscerally respond to it
Yeah.
because it's some dark imagery. Like the whole centipede tentacles with the
Attached to the
swirling
back of their
purple black
head,
darkness attached to the back of their heads.
Transmitting
Yeah,
thoughts and
like- Yeah.
factoids.
Because with the things that this show does to make the sort of day-to-day minutia kind of things more fun with the learning and whatnot, it's cool, right? It's a way to
Yeah.
keep things more entertaining.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like so much of it is commentary on, at the very least, the Japanese school system, if not how education can be taken in
it
some very bad
It
ways.
can be warped into something that no longer
Yep.
builds up the students
Right. Like
into even something that will be helpful in just society in general.
like and this wasn't this specific thing wasn't brought up, but I feel like it was something similar to it was brought up with with Asano when he talked about his friends, you know, and that
Yes.
they wouldn't be able to support him as a leader.
Yep.
The idea, one of the biggest issues that I've seen with education and that other people seem to have seen with education is when it's not actually teaching the students to learn, but it's trying to make them memorize facts, right? It's the, I will cram all this stuff down your throat and then you have to vomit it back on paper at the right time. And then there you go, grade, you know, keep going, and eventually you'll end up paying ridiculous amounts of money so you can do that, and then we give you a piece of paper saying you did that. You know?
I think that the system in general is something that we all know on many levels right now that is outdated and defunct in certain areas.
Yeah.
The main point at getting people to memorize specific things so that they can, like you said, vomit it out at specific times is, it's just not as applicable or even really a smart way of doing it. However, the part that I think that's turning up the heat on it, or is getting the heat turned up underneath it in Assassination Classroom as a show, is the idea of how a teacher and student's relationship should be.
Right.
And that is something that Asano gets to have a very specific type of focus on because while his character is getting the highlight here, he is in the family of someone who is in that teacher role.
Yep.
And thus he lives with it.
Right. And it's not something where just because he's against his dad means that he's going to completely change as a person, right?
Right.
Even if he ended up joining up with Class E and Koro Sensei and everything, he would still probably hold to the same tenets that his father raised him on because that's what's worked for him and everything in the past, right?
Yeah, there would be some changes, but
There'd be some
not
changes,
a fundamental
but
one
nothing
necessarily.
fundamental, right? It's maybe in a similar way to how Karma still very much has that chip on his shoulder and will mess with people as much as he can, right?
Exactly.
You know, even if he's not quite as verbose with it as he used to be, you know.
Sure.
But this is still really good focus for Asano because if Koro Sensei in this show is all about him basically reaching the people that society and most people maybe would think you can't reach, this is him reaching them, right? That's what Class E is. That's what Ituna was, you know, and now Asano is kind of like the final piece of that, I feel like.
Totally.
Unless we wanted to have Koro Sensei actually reach the principal as well, but I'm not holding my breath for that.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah. The principal, though, being framed in this way as both a father, principal, and teacher, though, means that he is also getting the spotlight here in a special way. He bribes the government with Karasuma and...
Or extorts the government.
Sorry, did I say bribes?
Yeah.
I meant to say, he's actually, like, extorting the money out of them.
And
let's think about this here. This is something that he's going to very easily get away with. But in terms of this whole thing being something where it's his, like, big play, him going to the guy in the park, throwing money at him and being like, I know the thing that's going to basically, you know, the gamble thing that that I've taught you basically is the only way you know how to live. He's setting up for something that's bigger than just the, I want to beat class, Class Z here.
I feel like, I mean, with that particular situation, I feel like it was something where it was a detail that was so disconnected that it basically shows his general state that this is something that he commonly does, like that this guy in particular probably isn't important or mean much to him or whatever, but it's like could be. I could totally be wrong on this, but it almost feels like this is an example of him showing like how out of his way he goes into very indirect methods to cultivate an environment where then his school will be able to be the best school. Whatever.
Except the guy did nothing else in this episode, so what he's doing has nothing to do necessarily with the immediate stuff regarding finals.
Right, totally.
So I'm saying that what he's doing right now with the billion that he's getting from them, the guy and what he did with money, those are related potentially, and yet have not necessarily anything to do in the immediate sense with where things are going in the finals.
Sure.
So I wanted to draw attention to the fact that he said in the very beginning, you didn't do the more harmful styles
you
of
didn't
thing.
poison the food or anything like that.
Exactly. And he's like, what, did he expect us to poison the food? And then our our principal guy here went out to some guy in a park who looks very creepy and gave him money to go and take a gamble on something. I think he's going to do something that could be harmful to Class 3E.
Okay, I would like definitely not be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up in that they're basically like, yeah, it's a good fight we're fighting right now. But no, I think the principal will play dirty and do something really like to make sure that Class A wins.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the idea that the $1 billion that he extorted from the government was for a specific purpose. I figured, it's
helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful. Why not? Like, I love the scene in Armageddon when they're all making their demands, you know, to the government of like, hey, if we're gonna go up there and blow up the asteroid, save the world, then you know we want to live in the White House. We don't want taxes ever again, you know, or like all this stuff. It's like, yeah, cool. Why not? Right.
Right.
But
doesn't one of them have like a really absurd request that you were thinking of or something?
I can't remember. It was no. It was just them all having their very specific kind of demands. You know, like
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, whatever floats your boat, kind of a thing, right? The whole thing with the homeless guy, I thought that was something where it was him basically saying, I'm maintaining a Class E in this city, in this region, so that way there will be just enough fear in parents of their kids turning out badly that they will pay exorbitant fees to send them to the really prestigious school.
I mean, that seems pretty dark and kind of a thing that I would see him doing potentially.
Because it felt very cultivated. Like when he said like I even helped.
I taught you that.
I taught you this,
yes.
Right? You know, the idea that it's like no. You have a purpose, right? And this is not some new thing, right?
Right.
This will just continue the way it has, right?
Yeah.
And there's I feel like it's something where they're having the principal basically do stuff really dark as a result of having realized certain sort of truths about the human psyche or whatever condition, right?
Okay.
You know, like, and he's basically taking the weaknesses and the flaws that he sees and pressing on them and supplying them, right? Mm-hmm. So that way they continue because he indirectly benefits. Because the big
that makes sense.
The big question that I felt was kind of interesting that was pointed out in this episode was why is he a teacher? Why do you teach, right? And it's kind of meta because it's like, okay, you have the principal and oh yes, he's all evil and scheming and red eyes and and centipede tentacle imagery and
Aizen's
voice, right? Yeah, it's like, all right,
they knew what they were doing when they cast that guy,
right? And it's all part of the fun extraness of the show, right? Because it's competition for Class C, things for them to overcome. Mm-hmm. But when you then go think about it, it's like no, there's some questions that could potentially be answered there. Like the whole idea of Koro Sensei's thing of the broad thing of is it either passing on your successes or warning people away from your failures? I could totally see it. Yeah, who knows, right? But I could see it being potentially that at some point there was some failure that he perceived within himself. And now he's like, I'm going to, whatever. Or that this is part of some crazy play that he's doing. If he's going citywide with his machinations, like not just within the school,
right?
Then is there some bigger purpose?
I think just the big part of it is that he is getting framed as a character that's getting focus here because of Asano being the one that's getting the focus.
Right.
Thus, everything that he does is important for this arc of the story, basically.
Yes.
So that thing that he did there just wasn't followed up on. And thus, it's going to be followed up on later. What it actually means probably says more about him as a character than about some grand plan.
Sure.
But the idea that he is a father to Asano, I think is the thing that is the key for him to have any kind of serious character development.
Okay.
The idea that Asano said, I have been in with my father, I have been in a teacher-student role with him forever. Mm-hmm. That has never been a thing. It's never not been a thing. It's always been that way.
Yep.
And if it wasn't where he had something to teach me, we didn't speak. That's in my opinion, that's borderline abuse right there.
Well,
that's basically the equivalent of neglect. It's like saying,
emotional for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it's basically saying like, okay, well then I'm either constantly talking to you, because if you think about it in the sense that he has more experience and intellect and stuff than his kid, then of course he's always teaching him.
Yeah.
In fact, he's always teaching him just by being around him.
Yeah, kids learn whether you want them to or not.
Yeah, exactly. There is no active teaching role that you can shift into that is, in fact, that's arrogant to think that you can be like, now I'm not teaching him.
Right.
Now I am.
But it does give very much a sense of like, that he's basically just trying to groom Asano to be his mini-me replacement, whatever, you know, and that's why he exists, right? And it's very cold and calculating in that regard.
Right.
And it does feel very reminiscent of sort of the stereotypical super busy, successful like dad that basically has the children that he doesn't have time for. And then based on where the time gets spent, you can see what's actually important, right?
Yep.
Whether there's tentacle imagery happening or not, right? You know, that's what gets communicated. That's what the child is taught, right?
Exactly.
And so that's just put on display in a very direct method here with the principal, because that's probably actually what is the desire, right? And consciously acknowledged within his own head that that's the desire. Whereas with, you know, a lot of other situations, it's probably more of a subconscious thing or a, you know, whatever. Who knows? Yeah.
And
But
then this episode basically left us with the cliffhanger of how are their results going to match up, because the tests are being scaled up to ridiculous pre-college levels.
Yeah, like this will get you into a mediocre college, and this is for junior high.
Yeah, so this is junior high. There was one area in school that I excelled at beyond the norm, but there was another area that I've talked about in these discussions for this that I was held back on, and that was math. So I did geometry in...
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a 13 when I did geometry. And then I did it 14 and 15. So I did it 3 times because I just failed it every single time. And it was entirely the teaching method. The teaching method being something where I got algebra so easily. I was done with it because...
Algebra is still math. Like, yeah.
Well, no, it is, but it's an entirely different type of math. So because of how easily it was taught to me, in that it was basically just solve for X, it basically boiled down into my head to just arithmetic with extra steps.
Right.
Geometry, no one like broke down the way in which we've shifted now into story type
All
math.
of a sudden it's proofs and, you know, theorems and shapes and things.
Yeah. But the funny thing was is that the more advanced math that came afterwards, I got easier than geometry for whatever reason. And when someone is in this situation where they're being pushed to, you have to excel to this level or something like that, it's not just what you're teaching, and thus they read the material, but it's how they're taught. And the fact that Koro-sensei decided to have the other students teach their peers in the subjects that they were the strongest at.
That was so cool.
Is genius. Like,
that was so cool.
That is brilliant. That is inspired. I don't know why that doesn't happen in more types of teaching environments in general. Is have your peers, when you've shown success in an area, instead of having your tests or what have you be, you have to learn the material that they're learning there. No, teach them the material that you're learning with them, but you have to be the teacher role. And thus, you're not going to do any tests. You're not going to do any like quizzes or anything. You just have to orchestrate the teaching for them. Yeah, and you'll figure it out because you have to teach them.
Yep. That is why why study groups, I'm convinced, are always a good idea. Even if like cuz you know, selfishly you might think why would the person that has the material the easiest, what motivation would they have to actually partake in a study group, because they don't need the help with the studying, you know? But this is the kind of reason why even in the things in school where I was good at, I would especially want to get the study groups for that, because then it's the if you're helping other people like explain it to them and things like that, it snowballs, right? It makes it so that you're rock solid, so that way when you're in the stress of having a test, you don't forget it, because that's the thing that I really hate about like the testing method and things like that, is it puts so much pressure onto the student so that even if they know the material, it's no, but you need to know it fast, you need to know blah, blah, blah. There's all these other things where taking tests ends up being a skill in its own that you never really have to, it never comes up later in life, not really.
Yeah, exactly. So I developed a little bit of almost a bit of a complex with this, and that was that I learned how to take tests rather than learning a lot of my subjects. So any of the subjects that I was bad at,
Gotcha.
I learned how to break down the tests in such a way that I would guaranteed to get a passing grade, but I would never actually excel at them because the main problems were you couldn't game that system, which were in some ways the best formatted questions, which was, hey, give a written bit about this thing showcasing how you understand it.
Gotcha.
Which was basically like, well, I can't game this. I have to actually explain how I understand it.
Oh yeah, and with something like that, no wonder geometry must have been hell because
No. That's I think those were the best questions in general
gotcha.
for helping me learn it because it was speak it in your own words,
right?
Talk about it. This is basically more
Process
of a written thing. Yeah, exactly. But the other questions were like, okay, multiple choice. Okay. First off, you can use logic to determine that it's only one of the two actual answers there. Then, like there's really dumb ways you can do it. But then you have to, and they did this, of course, in that way there, is that you had to show your work. Which I hated the idea of because I was like, well, I could figure out the answer. And since you care on all the previous tests, which this is a part I also am insane about, is that why not just, instead of focusing on the answer, show your work just in general and have that be entirely the thing there, and then just show that you understand the question rather than knowing how to solve it. That would, I would say, also be a really good way to do it. But math had this point where they diverged from, nope, the answer no longer is important. Instead of solving for X, you need to show me the process of how you got there. And that shift there just, I hated that.
And like I was one of the people that I had weak subjects. Math wasn't one of them. I had a lot of weak subjects that were other things. But the one math class that I ever dropped in college was something where it was a calc class, and the professor, it was something where, and this is again why I love that the students had to help teach.
Yeah.
He liked math. He was a shit teacher.
Yeah.
He was an absolutely shit teacher. He wasn't even consistent with the amount of work that he wanted shown.
Right.
So you take a test, right? You have a limited amount of time made by someone who likes to do what they do. So when they, their metrics of like, if it took me this long, then you should be able to get it done in 50 minutes or whatever, doesn't always hold up. But then with the prove this stuff, show your work, you never know how much you can do. Little, what assumed thing is okay and what isn't, right? And so all of the little things that they're getting into with the non-specific imagery of the massive monsters and and the things like that, I love it.
I feel it.
Yeah, I feel it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that in any show could just be thrown in for extra entertainment, but it's still something that it adds more to it than is just on the surface for at least me. So
yeah, I did and I was trying to describe my thing like that for a similar thing like you're talking about with Terasaka's, basically. And that he brute forced through it all.
Yep.
And that was something I remember doing at times, basically when I realized, well, I can't actually solve this, so I'm just going to plug in all the answers that I know that are wrong until I get basically an idea of where the right thing is. And if I don't get any like immediate breakthrough with that, I'm going to move on to the next question just so that I don't waste my time. Because instead of like searching for efficiency and stuff like that and trying to focus on the one question that you're stuck with. And they would even tell you this. This is the part of how you know the testing system is screwed up. They would tell you, oh, if you get stuck on a question that you don't understand as much, just skip it and move on to the next one because you don't want to waste your time too much on one thing. I'm like, is that a meta analysis thing where it's like, oh, all tests are like this? I'm like, I think then there might be something wrong with the tests.
Or my personal favorite is when they would say, all right, there's only going to be 5 questions on this test. It's going to be, but the questions are going to be really hard. And it's like, okay, 5 questions, awesome. All right, so just take the time. Show, cool. But then each test has 4 parts, and it's actually 4 questions per question. So it's actually like a personal detail, past experiences, all that shit. But so I love this show. I love the show, how it goes into it, how it manages to make it fun and keep keep up the whole hype, let us row fight the power and depose this evil principal.
Because holy crap.
Yeah.
Asano, I'm so proud of you for taking this first step. But
Good
I cannot
job.
wait to get into the family backstory stuff that is probably going to come in the next episode. So, y'all, if you want to see that next episode's reaction right now, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. You can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Info in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
Next time.